2020. I'd like to call this meeting of the Colerain Township Board of Trustees to order. And in the absence of our fiscal officer, Jeff Baker, I will call the roll. Matt Wallert.
Here.
Raj Rajagopal.
Here.
And I'm here as well. In the absence of our fiscal officer, we will need to elect a fiscal officer pro tem as the recording secretary for the meeting. I would like to nominate Trustee Matt Wallert to be the fiscal officer pro tem for this evening.
I second it.
It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion?
None.
Hearing none. Dan Unger votes yes. Raj?
Yes.
And Matt Wallert?
Yes.
And the motion carries 3-0. So Matt Wallert will be the fiscal officer pro tem for this meeting. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of us in the room, and I'd ask that you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
Of America. And
to
to
the
the republic for which it
United
stands,
States, which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I ask that you remain standing for a minute. I would just ask the Lord to shine his favor on our great nation and bring some calm and peace to people everywhere. Those suffering from COVID, those that are out protesting, and bring some sense to those that are taking those protests too far and rioting. We still live in the greatest nation on earth, and people need to remember that. And Lord, please watch out for all of us. Amen. Thank you. And we'll move on to the next item, which is citizens address. We collected any comments from citizens that wanted to speak, and we have received one for this evening. And I will go ahead and read it. And it's from Elda Cofield, and it has to do with the topic of animal ordinance. I have a question. Is there an ordinance in the township restricting a homeowner in a condominium community from putting out food for animals on their porch? My concern is the food draws the cats intended as well as wild animals. Our complex has experienced raccoons taking advantage of food for the homeless cat. When finished with the food, the raccoons are entering car hoods of the neighbors and eating car hoses, wires, and whatever else is under the hood. Many neighbors have experienced significant vehicle damages over the past few months. An effort was made by a professional exterminator company, but somehow the raccoons often seem to escape the traps. The homeowner refuses to comply with our nuisance clause in the bylaws, and it appears a court battle will result. Is there a township ordinance that would add some support to our cause? Question mark. Elda Cofield of 5611 Old Blue Rock Road, Peach Grove Manor condominiums. And that is the one comment we have, and I am not familiar with such ordinance. I know it's a bad idea to set food out for wild animals.
Yeah, I'm not aware of a resolution. Cities have ordinances and townships have resolutions, and I'm not aware of a resolution on the books right now in Colerain that would prohibit a property owner from putting food out. In situations like these, what we often do is partner with the SCPA and SPCA rather, and we would give them a call, and they take care of wild animals in Colerain Township.
Okay, thank you. And I'll probably give this homeowner a call after the meeting to discuss that. The next item, that's the only one we had, so that is the end of citizens address. The next item is old business, the resolution of necessity for levying a tax exceeding the 10 mil limitation for the fire department of the township. And I would comment, 2 meetings ago, we discussed this and it was tabled. And at our last meeting, the trustees voted to approve sending 3 mils down to the auditor for review. So from that point, I'll let you lead the discussion, Jeff Mills, Administrator.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Unger, Mr. Waller, Mr. Rajagopal. Good evening, Board of Trustees. This meeting was asked for by Trustee Rajagopal to continue our discussion about the millage that we were needing to certify if we were going to have a fire levy on the ballot in November. So it's the purpose of the meeting is just to continue that discussion.
Great, and I'll start off with my comment that We sat down and talked about this back in January, and the trustees individually did. I'm not sure exactly when the other two met, but I met on one evening back in January. Gee, it's been 5.5 months ago already. And we went through the budget of the fire department, and I had an opportunity to ask questions. And I do realize that a third of my fellow citizens are unemployed. The fire department we were presented with several different scenarios. And 2 meetings ago, I recommended the lowest of the 4 scenarios, which would maintain current levels of service, and also asked the administration to put their thinking caps on and come up with a way to find some type of public-private partnership for our capital needs, specifically the replacement of 1 or 2 firehouses. I've gone out and toured all the firehouses, and I've watched the operations of the fire department, and I don't think 2 of them is in the cards for this year, considering everything that's going on. But in my opinion, the one up at Dunlap is the oldest, and it's pretty undersized for the operations we're trying to run. And the growth of population hasn't so much been in that area, and we might be better served to take advantage of the work of a previous board of trustees, where I guess they secured a parcel down off Struble Road in that industrial park development. And I believe we have until maybe 2027 to exercise our rights to use that parcel. And so I would favor asking the administrators and the fire chief and those others to find a way to find some outside money that's not tax dollars to fund the capital cost of constructing such a thing. Everything said, I'm comfortable with the 3 mills that I've asked the auditor to certify. And if I think it's more than people can afford, I will challenge it then. But I think the big first step is ask the auditor what exactly that would cost in this current circumstance. And Raj or Matt, any comments you have?
Sure. I got some little, thank you. First, I want to thank you, Jeff, Mr. Jeff Mills, to set up that special meeting. I also thank Trustee Hunger, Trustee Wallet, joined this meeting and discuss. My goal was not only have the certification for the millage submit to the auditor, but in this meeting I would like to make complete decisions, whatever the millage we want to do, and say this is a millage, we're going to let the public know, let the residents know this is a millage we're going to put on the November ballot. I want to tell you some of the things I wrote it down, which is said all the time. I want to read it to you. I'm very proud to say that Colerain Fire Department is one of the finest and best fire department in the country. And also, my aspiration as a Colerain Township trustee, I want to keep them as the best to serve our residents, Colerain Township people. The average response, I'm so very proud of this statement. The average response time is about 5 minutes. That is amazing, and how quickly respond to save lives. 5 minutes. That's very critical time. This things I'm saying this now, this all based on the factor how we decide to set that the millage, the miles, not the numbers. But today is very challenging as 3 trustees meet together to determine whether levy is needed to sustain the quality of our fire department. We heard that due to the pandemic of COVID-19 and the consequence of economic turmoil, it is very hard decision to make. It's hard time. But my utmost statement I would make, but providing safety and saving lives is almost priority. That's our duty. Okay, then a lot of people criticize we spend so much money on buying a $1 million truck, but I saw in the action how that $1 million big ladder truck, how quickly he put the fire out. Not only that, he saved the lives of our firefighters, keep them at distance instead of close to the fire. That's very, very, very important. I still believe it's the greatest investment. And also, a lot of people criticize. I won't say that they spend a lot of money in buying the equipments, but these are the best equipments and keep safety of our firefighters. Saving one life of our firefighters is very, very critical, and it's our duty as a trustee save our firefighters and first responders. I had a great discussion with the Jeff Mills and also Fire Chief Cook. I kind of narrowed down the money needed, the millage, to sustain the same quality of the fire departments we have now for the future. This is very, very important. And last meeting that we decided to certify, but I voted against it. But the reason is I want to have all three trustees to make a decision on this. What is the millage we're going to do actually in the November ballot? The people will be prepared for that. So I after talk to that, then I'll decide. I'll make when the motion comes, I'll decide. I would like trustees to set 3 to 3.1 mil for the, to be set in the levy to be placed on the November ballot. So it is very critical also put on the November ballot, because that's where I hear this, we will be having the money before about 2022. If you put in a March or some other individual levy, the Colerain levy is going to cost more money for the township. Then another thing that finally I would say, I know our fire department, I visited all the fire departments, every one of them I know. Mostly, my heart is towards the one fire station in Galbraith Road. We need to have the better condition there, especially this pandemic situation like that. These guys are cramped up in the living condition there. So, like I said in the last meeting, I'm speaking to the private people. There's possibility we'll find some donors to build a nice fire station. But right now, we need to have money to sustain the quality and the operation of our fire department, and also keep the personnel we needed to provide the safety for our Colerain Township residents. That's my thoughts.
To be clear, Raj, what was the number you said?
I would say 3 to 3.1, but talking to the fire chief and their analysis to keep sustained and still providing the same quality, they would like to have 3.1. The levy, we can put it on 3.1.
3.1. Okay, thank you. Matt?
Can't hear.
Thank you, Trustee Unger. Thank you, Trustee Rajagopal. Thank you, Mr. Mills, Mr. Weckback, Chief Cook, Assistant Chiefs Walls and Mueller. I also had the opportunity to visit you guys, and I think you're doing a fantastic job. The numbers speak for themselves. There are 3. I didn't know what this meant when we first hit our meeting, and you guys said we're ISO 1, and I'm like, all right, yay. And then I found out what it meant, and there's 3 in the state of Ohio, and I had looked up the number in the country, and it was ridiculously low. It was insanely low. It's a difficult rating. And I had a number of questions, Chief. This is Chief Walls answered, especially with regard to my favorite subject to talk about all the time, mutual aid, which is important. Last meeting, I did indicate that I have issues with the timing of it. It's not that I'm against the levy; it's that I have issues with the timing, and that's what this process is for. I mean, we're on June 2nd or 3rd right now. The election's in November. That does give time to sort things out. And, every morning I wake up and half the mornings I'm like, we're getting out of this. And half the mornings I'm like, oh my gosh, it's the Great Depression. And I don't know that schizophrenic is my view as much as everybody else's. And that's a concern for me. The other thing that I've said when I ran for office and when I was elected is that I'm not going to make a decision for tomorrow. I'm trying to make a decision for 10 and 15 years down the road. And if people don't like it, then they can, in 3.5 years, get someone else. But I'm not going to be swayed by what the immediacy is. I think it's essential. I learned a long time ago. I learned during the Great Recession of 08 and 09 that you make decisions based upon the future, and the future is not now. It's the time horizon should be longer. I think that there are some capital needs that need to be addressed in the fire department. The old Colerain station, not only is it really, and this is no fault of administration or this chief or the chief before, it's not in a strategic location. I think you just look at the numbers and look at that. It's not efficient. So I'm not per se against building a new one if it brings me efficiency down the road. And all you need to do is look at the call volume to figure out that something's going, most of it's coming from Springdale in that area, and they're shouldering a heavy load, and there could be a better way of kind of distributing that load. I do realize that there are certain capital needs that I'm like, really, you need a big ladder truck, like Mr. Raj Kabul said. But actually, if you want to be ISO 1, you need 2, as I was told. That's right? Chief Walls, is that you need two ladder trucks, but we can do mutual aid with Springfield? Yeah. So there are things that are baked into this that are a little bit more complex than the numbers. So I did vote last time to send the millage down to dusty roads. I want to give these guys the tools they need. To me, this job is about police, fire, EMS, and roads. That's it. If we have other stuff to fit in, we will. But I'm not. To me, that's the key essence of what government is here to do. I think we've witnessed that. If you've watched the news at all the last 3 or 4 days and seen how important those not roads at 3 or 4 days, but you've seen how important police, fire, and EMS are. It's a rude awakening. So what I'm going to, as I go through this, I'm still keeping an eye on the macroeconomic parts of this, and do we push this off till March? And I know that that's something that makes everybody around me nervous, and I get that. But at the same time, I want to be involved in part of the process of saying how can we kind of improve this going forward. And I guess I'll just transition to my first question for Mr. Mills about this. I am sure that all your department heads have lobbied you seriously about the debt service reallocation on a daily basis. You probably wake up with a note on your pillow that says, I want part of the debt service reallocation. But looking at that, and also keeping in mind, my view, and I don't know where this is going, that, I believe that a way to help subsidize some of this stuff in the future is on the front end of new construction and things like that. But what are we talking about here for the first? Because I guess we've got this tool, and I think our agreement was we were going to kind of go and play with the numbers. But there's $700,000 in debt service reallocation from, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, mostly fire equipment that's being paid, right?
There are a number of bonds that are going to fall off in 2022, I believe.
The park, and then
Yeah, there's the Veterans Memorial. We've got some park bonds falling off, and then I believe it's the Public Services Building 4160 rolls off in 2022. So come 2022, we will be debt free. And one of the things that's built into that tool, there's lots of ways to fund things. The levy is one, and we will have some revenue that currently is going to debt service that will become available. And then TIFs are always a possibility for funding these things, for funding capital needs. You see it in our neighboring townships all the time.
So how long is this projected? I mean, last time, I'm going to get the numbers wrong, but it was a 5-year levy that they made stretch to 9, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Is that right?
Yep. And that's, we've done all of our models based on a 5-year levy.
That I don't want to put words in your mouth, but based upon the past history of the department, that 5-year levy is like worst case scenario. You feel that it could probably be stretched?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
Okay.
it's based on the existing CBAs. So 75% of our cost is people, and that cost is determined by collective bargaining agreements by and large. And so CBAs determine a lot of that, and then excuse me, and then what capital we want to purchase because, as you know, our fleet is aging. We've got a great fleet maintenance division that keeps units in service for a very long time, but even you saw the tankers that are from 1987. They eventually they do run out of. They just don't make the parts anymore.
So if, for instance, if I were to say, look, I want to take this 100% of this debt service reallocation, which is $700,000, and apply it towards the needs of the fire department. Number one, my concern would be I'd be creating a little bit of trouble for you within the other departments.
No, I think everybody understands the situation. Look, this organization is a scrappy one. We know how to do a lot with a little. That's who we are as an organization. However, I would point out that our road need is about $4 million a year to keep the current levels, which are not great, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're currently putting about 1.25 million into roads. If that would be a great opportunity to put more money into roads, if that's what the board wants to do. If the board wants to use that debt service for fire, that's something we could do. The police, they're a levy funded organization also, and their levy doesn't last forever.
So if we find that let's say we do a development, I don't know, let's pick something at random, over on the east side of Colerain, and it's an apartment complex, and we TIF, and I don't mean TIF with aid to the developer. I mean TIF as in just a straight residential TIF.
Yes.
Is it a permissible common use to provide that funding to fire, police, roads
Yes.
that are within the TIF?
For capital. Yep.
Okay. For capital only, not operational.
Well, I'd defer to Scott on that, but my understanding is that capital is a certainty. You can certainly use TIF funds to fund capital purchases.
As long as they benefit, I think, the TIF district or TIF area, which in this case that would be the case.
So yeah, because I note, and then I'll let other trustees kind of chime in here. I note that that we have, and I talked to you about this today on the phone about you'd given us a kind of a report of economic development in the community, and we were going to revisit that. And I note there's a lot of it that kind of changes some of this calculus, or could change some of it if we were to opt for TIFs. And the last question is, so let's say let's put that whole $700,000 towards fire, and we get 3 new projects that come in, and we for some reason get TIFs, no help to the developer, just TIFs to help with our infrastructure. We can apportion that $700,000 to something else at that point, right? Okay. That kind of gives you the basis of kind of what I'm thinking when it comes to this.
It sounds to me, just to try to summarize what I'm hearing from the board, is that we want to get to a levy that continues to fund operations at current levels, and you're asking the administration to look for ways outside of tax levies to fund capital needs in the fire department. Is that accurate?
Hey, Jeff, I have a question. I can see that Matt's point also is a very, very good point to making. And the TIF projects we are hoping to build, but it takes more timing to get the funds available to sustain the quality, I mean, to run the fire department, yet keeping the same quality of the operation, correct?
Say that one more time.
Okay, the TIF Matt emphasizing is, what we're just discussing is, that funds will take a longer time to come into the fire department in case we use that fund. But this levy we are focusing on, is continuation after these. I saw the curve after 2021. The funding for the fire department will what do you call it? Almost like short it down. It'll short down. The decrease, it will decrease. But this levy will really pump up the loss we may be taking. Yeah, and we can keep maintain the same quality of the fire department. You mean, you see what I'm talking about?
Yeah. So the fire department as a department, went through a needs assessment and analyzed all of their capital and apparatus needs, the facilities, apparatus, and they presented all those things that they need. And in order to fund all the things that they need, it would be about a $6+ million levy. If we were to fund all those things out of a levy. There are other ways to fund it. We could fund to keep things exactly as they are, not purchase any apparatus or facilities with levy funds. The amount is the 3.1 mils in a levy. And then I think what Mr. Wallard was suggesting was, hey, administration, look for ways outside of levy funds to fill the needs that you guys have identified. And some of those are, maybe that's coming from debt that rolls off and using the revenues that was servicing that debt for capital, and others. Another way is to establish TIF districts that could fund those capital needs without increasing levies. In terms of timing, Mr. Rajagopal, I think maybe that was another part of your question, was timing. Property taxes are collected in arrears. My understanding is that if we, in November, if the voters of Colerain Township approve a levy, that levy will go on the books in 2021, next year, and then will be collected in the beginning of 2022. So hopefully that helps to assuage some of the concerns about the near-term economy. Hopefully by January 2022, we're in a much better situation than we are now. But really, who knows? So, and then TIFs are the same way. TIFs are such that they collect taxes on the incremental increase from a development, and that's also collected in arrears. The one thing that you can do with TIFs, though, is that you can bond against those TIFs. So you can pledge future revenues from a TIF district that a TIF district would generate and take on debt in the short term. So, if we were to have a big development and we wanted to establish a TIF, we could go out to the bond market and say, hey, give us $1 million loan or a $3 million loan now, and we will pay for that loan with future TIF revenues. So you can sort of bring some of that revenue forward in time by bonding it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. But what is the certainty, like guarantee those TIF monies? You got to have the development first, right?
Yeah, and those are all, the township is protected through agreements with the debt provider. We can't, to make sure that we aren't going to be paying money that we don't have, right? So we would not enter into a situation where we would put the general fund at risk. I don't think. I wouldn't recommend doing that. And also,
thank you.
We're also going to be debt free. The township will be pretty much debt free in 2022. So there is a huge amount of general obligation bonding debt capacity if the board chooses to go that route also. So I heard Mr. Rajagopal suggest that a 3.1, he would like to certify 3.1 mils. We've already have a resolution adopted to certify 3 mills. The board has the ability tonight to adopt a second resolution asking the auditor to certify a different millage, as in the 3.1. I can send both of those down to the auditor. He'll certify both. The real decision point for the board is that comes on or before July 28th, and that's when we need to resolve to put this thing on the levy, on the ballot rather, in November. And I would then, at that point, I would send it down to the Board of Elections, and they would develop ballot language, and it would be on the November ballot. So this stage that we're at right now is just is a preliminary stage. It's certifying millage, and we can, as I said, certify multiple millages. That's no problem. And then the real decision as to which of those millages you choose would come before July 28th.
Thanks, Jeff. At this meeting, just to pass the kind of information, get prepared the people for ready for the levy. And the Board of Trustees now, this meeting can decide what we'll be aiming for. The number will be determined. We'll use the same number when we come to that meeting to confirm the actual millage. That way, we don't, at least the people have the expectation of what we will be looking for or asking for. Ultimately, it's up to the people, the residents, to make a decision anyway. Is it okay with you guys?
I'm going to ask, Raj, it sounds like you're headed for 3.1. And last meeting, we sent 3.0 down there. And Matt voted for that. I'm just going to ask Matt, did you have any other number that you would like to have sent down? Or are you fine with both of those, or either or neither? Or I appreciate you supporting me last week on the 3.0.
I mean, the difference between the 3 and the 3.1 is on an impact is 3,590,000 versus 3,474,000. So it's
Another $120,000.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think my issue is twofold. Number one, is the timing of the economy, and number two, making sure we get that we bring something to the voters that kind of changes the efficiency pattern, so that, I think the big issue is that we have 2 stations doing whatever 80% of the calls. I mean, you can't move people, and those are stations that have been there for a long time. So it's not. I mean, it's just kind of how people moved, but I guess, to move it forward, I'll move it forward, but I still have those and other concerns that I think we can, kind of work through and find a way to, get more efficient at the delivery level. Or, I talked last time about reducing risk, which this fire department does a great job of, and looking just at some other options too. But I am concerned about the long-term impact of doing this. And again, I mean, that doesn't mean I'm against it altogether, but if we wait till March, have we done, I guess the way, and nobody knows the answer, I guess have we thrown the fire department backwards, or have we thrown the people backwards that pay the taxes? That's kind of the counterweight I have. And again, I want to do something that's in the best long-term interest of the community. That's a long answer of, you can go ahead and put the 3-1. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to go with it. It just means that let's keep the discussions going, and get as much detail as we can between now and July 28th.
Let me ask, Dan, it's open meeting. So it's a matter of talking to the fire chief today, what actual amount. If you think 3.0 is good, I'll go along with that.
Okay, and I would just comment that for any levy, whether it was in November of 20 or 21 or whenever, I've always preferred to have those issues on the general election because there is a cost that we're charged by the Board of Elections to have an election. And if Colerain Township is the only thing on there in March of 21, we pay the whole cost of the election. If you do it in November of 20, you have all the federal races, you have the presidential race. We pay a very small part of that cost to have it on the general ballot, and at the general election, we pay the whole cost to have it on a off season or, a March or an August levy. So if we're going to do something, I'd prefer to have it on at the general election any given November. So with that, did you want a motion for a different amount, Raj?
I'll stay with, if that's the concerns, we make 3.0, that'd be good. But at least we stick with the number when we submit for the November ballot.
Well, we've already, I think you've already sent the resolution down for 3.0, right?
That's only a certification, but this is only the people will know that that's the one we'll be asking. We will not be changing one that actually the levy thing we submit for the election, during the November election.
And our office did confirm today with the Hamilton County Auditor's Office that you can send down multiple requests for certification, but the specific millage that you are requesting ultimately to proceed on the ballot does need to be certified specifically by the county. So whether if we send 3.0 or 3.1, whichever one is chosen, if that's your decision, needs to be certified initially.
One of the things I've heard from both Trustee Unger and Roger Kapal is the need, and I agree, the need for a new station or a redesigning of this. I don't know. I guess I don't see it there at 3 or 3.1 even. If you do the math, that's, and again, that goes back to my March issue, is that I don't, given the numbers that we have now, I don't see that as a possibility. Just throwing that out there for your consideration.
And I have the confidence in our administration that you're going to rise to the challenge of finding some private entity or public-private partnership that either might have a building to lease or build a new building and lease it back to us, or some combination of circumstance where somebody else lays out all the capital for this, and we can either lease it or work out some sort of elegant agreement where both sides would come out okay, because there are probably tax advantages for a private developer or somebody to build not just a firehouse, but any building that the township would need, versus the township fully absorbing the impact of that right up front. And if we have to bond out the money, then we're paying the cost of selling the bonds and the interest on the bonds. And if we can find an outside source, and I think you've heard pretty loud and clear, at least from me, go find it, and see what we can do. It's the whole other side of this is we need to balance the needs of not just the fire and police and roads with the ability of people to pay. And as I said at the beginning of the meeting, a third of my fellow citizens are unemployed, and I hear that and I see it pretty close, as a matter of fact. And we've got to make it something that's affordable. I'm comfortable with the 3.0 we sent down last week. We'll see what comes back from the auditor of exactly what that cost would be. But per this meeting, to discuss a different amount, Raj, you don't want a motion to certify 3.1?
I'm staying with that 3.0. That way, the trustees in a good agreement.
Okay. So is there any other discussion on this this issue? Hearing none, we will move on to the next item, which is executive session, which I don't think we need. And the next item, this is flipped around. Is there any new business? Okay. And then the next item would be a motion to adjourn.
I second. I second.
Unger motions to adjourn and Raj seconds.
Let me call the roll, please. Trustee Rajagopal,
Aye.
Trustee Unger,
Aye.
Trustee Wallert votes aye.
So it's Unger motion, Raj second, and then 3 yay votes.
The fiscal officer has no report.
Okay.
Thank you.
Which was not an agenda item, by the way.
I know.
This meeting of the Colerain Township Board of Trustees is adjourned at 6:41 p.m. on Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020.